What's up, guys? Today we'll be going over the biggest in-season rises in NRL history. If you didn't see my last video, that was on the biggest in-season collapses in NRL history, and I very much recommend that video. But yeah, anyways, let's get right into it. The first team we have is the 2005 West Tigers. The Tigers were coming off some relatively disappointing seasons. 2004 they'd finished 9th. And they'd be sitting 12th mid-season, and things are looking about the same. But the Tigers' brand of exciting attacking footy would prevail, and they'd win 8 games in a row, including their tied biggest ever win against the Bulldogs. Despite 2 losses against the Storm and Penrith to finish off the regular season, the Tigers would be favoured in their qualifying final match against the North Queensland Cowboys, a team they had played earlier in the season once in Townsville. The Cowboys made pretty easy work of the Tigers. But the Tigers would smash the Cowboys 50-6, with Brett Hodgson putting on especially a good performance. They do about the same to the Broncos, winning 34-6, before a tough physical encounter against the Dragons, which Benji Marshall described as the most physical game he ever played. The Tigers prevailing 20-12, and then meet the Cowboys in the grand final. This game, however, was much closer than the qualifying final. The Tigers would prevail, though, 30-16, in a game which the scoreline didn't really reflect how close the game was, with a last-minute try to Todd Payton really blowing out the Tigers, or blowing out the Cowboys. And that would cap off a great rise from the Tigers, and it'll be the first finals appearance, and the first and currently only premiership by the joint venture. The next one we have is probably the most remarkable, honestly, the 2009 Parramatta Eagles. And let's be real, no one expected the Eagles to do well. In 2008, they finished 11th, and things looked to be tracking the same. They were sitting 14th with a record of 5 wins, 1 draw and 10 losses. But a remarkable 7-game winning streak where they'd pretty much just be smashing teams every week, except for the Tigers. They'd be, locked into finals with a round to spare. Crazy. They'd play the top place Dragons and would get smashed 37-0. And they'd play the Dragons the week after and would pull off one of the great finals upsets, beating them 25-12. They would make very easy work of the Titans at home and would then play the Bulldogs in a prelim final. They'd win by 10 points in what was a pretty tough affair. And they'd play the Storm, a team that kick-started their run with a massive upset against them. And they would unfortunately trail 23-16, but that premiership has been stripped from the Storm and is now vacant. The next team we have is the 2017 Penrith Panthers. The Panthers were coming off a very solid season in 2016, bowing out in a semi-final against the Raiders. And there's a lot of expectation for 2017. But Penrith did not live up to that in the first 9 rounds, sitting 2-7, with their 2 wins coming against the eventual 14th place Tigers and the eventual Wooden Spooners and the Newcastle Knights. Nice. But they'd kickstart their run with a 22-point comeback against the Warriors. Despite a losing streak and a few poor performances, they would make the finals, despite 2 pretty poor losses to the Dragons and the Sea Eagles to finish off their season. But the week after that Sea Eagles game, they'd play them again at Allianz, and the Panthers would win 22-10, going through to a semi-final. They'd play the Brisbane Broncos at Suncorp Stadium, a very tough task, and unsurprisingly, they would lose 13-6 in what was a very, low-scoring game, but they'd lose 13-6 in what was ultimately a pretty disappointing season from Penrith. The next team we have is the 2021 Manly Sea Eagles. Manly, I hate them. And in 2021, no one was expecting to do anything. They were coming off a very poor 2020. And there was no expectation. People thought, they could finish in the bottom 4 yet again. And it looked like we got our wish. They started 0-4, with 3 of those 4 losses being pretty bad losses against the Roosters, the Dragons, and the Panthers. They'd beat the Warriors by 1 point, and the return of one man called Tom Trbojevic would absolutely carry them for the rest of the season. And his impact was shown immediately with 2 massive wins against the Titans and Tigers. And they'd lose to Penrith in a very honourable effort, and would only have 3 more losses that year against the Knights, the Raiders and the Storm, up until finals. They'd meet the Storm on week 1 and would lose 40-12 in what was a pretty poor performance. They'd make very easy work of the Roosters, 42-6, and would lose to the Rabbitohs in the prelim final that I was at. But Manly, a very good season, unfortunately. The next team we have is the 2022 Canberra Raiders. The Raiders had a very disappointing 2021. Coming off a 5th place finish in 2020, they had missed the 8, and they wouldn't be off to the greatest start, sitting 2-6 after 8 rounds. But from that point onwards, they go 12-4, with the highlight definitely being toppling the Storm in Melbourne. And after they'd have their loss to the Dragons, and after that would win 7 of their last 8 games, including 2 massive wins against the Sea Eagles and the Tigers, 1 at home, 1 away from home. And for the second time that season, they would topple the Storm in Melbourne. They would take on the Parramatta Eels, and unfortunately for the Raiders, would get smashed 40-4. And really, they weren't in the game from the get-go. Ultimately, though, still a very good season from the Canberra Raiders. The next team we have is the 2023 Newcastle Knights. The Knights are coming off a very disappointing 2022 season where they'd finished 14th. And 2023 wasn't looking so good. Despite, an alright start, their form would start to deteriorate, and after a loss to an Origin-affected Penrith team, they'd be sitting 14th on the ladder at round 17. But something would click in the Knights system. They would smash the Dogs 66-0, have a bye. They beat the Tigers, and then they'd beat the Storm, which would, they continue to get wins against the Raiders, Dolphins and Dogs. They'd beat the Rabbitohs, and they'd beat the Sharks to secure a final spot. They'd make very easy work of the Dragons in the last round, and would finish 5th. A remarkable turnaround from the Newcastle Knights. They'd play the Raiders in one of the best elimination finals you'll ever see. They'd win 30-28 in an absolute cracker. But unfortunately for the Newcastle Knights, they play the New Zealand Warriors in Auckland and get absolutely smashed 40-10. It was actually not that bad, but the Warriors really did run away with it late in the game, and the Knights would fall 40-10 to end, which was a very positive season, but they could have ended on a better note. And those were 6 of the biggest in-season collapses in our history. Is there any other you can think of that I didn't mention in this video? Would there be enough for me to make a part 2? Hope you guys enjoyed, and I just want to end off this video by saying, thanks for the support recently. My channel has grown a decent amount in the last few weeks, so I'm really grateful for you guys, and I think this video is pretty good, and if you like it, make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.